even then, you'll get some editors who ask to see a synopsis. That's what you're talking about, a synopsis of the story. Zusammenfassung, is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look at that. It's been 10 years since I've spoken German, but I've still got something. All right. But even there, if you have a well-presented synopsis, you're going to be able to make a good impression. But the rules for what is a well-presented synopsis are different from the rules for what is a good manuscript. So when I've been talking about submitting a manuscript, I was actually talking more about short fiction, which the editor is going to read entirely. Your synopsis has to be very different from your story. The editor is not looking to hear your voice as an author. He's not looking for your style or the beauty of your prose. He wants something that's very tight, very direct, that tells it exactly like it is. This happened, that's what he's about. He wants to be able to paint a picture in his mind immediately, without being manipulated the way that we as writers like to manipulate our readers. I mean, when we write a story, we'll use suspense and misdirection and mystery to build expectations in the reader and to turn those on their head. An editor does not want to be manipulated like that. So when you make your Zusammenfassung, it has to be direct and it has to tell it exactly like it is. And if he likes what he reads, he's only going to be looking at the content. What is the story about? And if he likes that, then he'll ask for the full story. And then you'll be able to impress him with your spelling and your grammar and the beauty of your prose. But if he doesn't like it, then that's it. Then it's just not the story that they're interested in publishing.
Yeah,
sorry, one second. Is that okay? Is that clear? Okay. Yep.
Yeah. If you were to submit something like a comic book or a graphic novel to, let's say, an aforementioned company, is there any advice you give for that, apart from obviously proofreading what the speech bubbles say? I mean, do the companies only accept the ones that are like the highest standard of artwork, or is it just the do story or the way that everything's based, or?
When we're talking about the furry fan, and that's what we're here to talk about, there are a lot of people who start a project and have a great idea and that believe that it's going to be something fantastic, and they never finish it. This is something that we as editors become incredibly jaded about. So whenever somebody talks about, oh, I have a fantastic idea for something, it's like, yeah, man, that's great. Go do it, and I'll never see you again because you're not going to finish it. 9 out of 10 times. It's kind of a terrible shame because it's so much fun to think about a new project, to think about the idea and to talk about it with other people. But we have enough experience to realize that this doesn't happen very often. So when you want to present something to a publishing house like Heat magazine, they take bits and Anthro-Relations when it was still running. They take bits of graphic storytelling as well. And they're actually going to want completed stuff. Now they're going to realize that it's a bit unfair to ask someone to produce 16 pages of really good, high quality art, and then submit that, and then maybe be rejected and have all that effort wasted. We all realize that it's a bit unfair to ask that, but we do want to have the confidence that an actual product can emerge. So if you're going to submit a comic, and like, what specifically are we talking about? Were you like thinking about a short bit, like 6 to 16 pages for like an anthology, or were you thinking more about like a full graphic novel for 40 pages, or
full graphic novel about 60 pages, I'd say.
All right, then as an editor, I would say, how much have you produced?
Well, at the moment I've only produced the first chapter out of 9. And this is taking me several months to do, but I've started come to the point where I'm going to eventually get finished and then ask the company to publish it.
Well, what I like about working in the furry fandom is that it's a little casual and it's a little more personal. So if you can demonstrate that you've got what it takes to actually produce you're going to get a lot of assistance and leeway from that. If you're going to say, okay, well, you know, Alex Vance of Bad Dog Books, here's the first, let me do the math here real quick, the first one, 6 or 7 pages, how much have you got?
9.
9, oh sorry, the first 9 pages of my story. I expect it's probably going to take me somewhere between 3 months to 3 years to finish the rest, but is this something that you'd be interested in publishing? And they'll definitely be interested in hearing more about it. Right? We'll look at the art, we'll look at the synopsis of the story, and we'll sort of gauge if that's something that's going to interest us or not. And then, you know, we'll be like, okay, this is some cool stuff. I'd love to see more as you progress. And as you get closer to actually making it a reality, then let's talk about it. So you're in a better position here in the furry fandom for that kind of project than in mainstream press, where they get a lot of submissions. They get a whole lot of submissions that are completed and that are of high quality. So they can be a bit more picky. They can be like, okay, we're not going to consider even talking about your fantastic project until you deliver 60 completely print-ready pages, and only after that will we decide whether we reject it or not. So in your situation, yeah, send it out. In fact, come up later on, tell me about what you've got going on. I'll take a look at it. Maybe it's shit. Maybe I don't like it. Maybe, you know, maybe it's not something that I'm interested in.
I'll have to find your webpage for that.
Yeah, well, all right. I mean, we can do that later on. I'll give you one of my cards and
okay.
Do that. So this is an illustration of the kind of attitude that you'll encounter in the fandom if you're talking about an unsolicited submission, which for writers is really much harder than for writers of short fiction. An unsolicited submission, nobody's really going to do a lot with it. Like I have this story and I'd like to get it published somehow, somewhere. You send it to an editor and they'll be like, okay, right, cool, I'll put that in the drawer somewhere. No, they're never going to read it, realistically. I mean, unless it happens to be really excellent, unless they happen to be in a really good mood and they're working on some new concept for an anthology or a book that they're trying to put together, unless it just happens to be at the exact right moment, realistically they're never going to look at it. So when you're writing short fiction, you have to target the market that you're going to write for, the issue of the magazine, of the anthology, or of and look at the theme. But novels, comics, they're much rarer. So you're going to get a lot more assistance from people willing to give it a shot and talk about it. And from an editor's point of view, like I wouldn't commit to publishing anything until I have the confidence that it's going to be good, it's going to meet my standards of quality, it's going to meet the demands of my audience, and it's going to be finished. Until then, I'm perfectly willing to talk about it, perfectly willing to help you out, but I'm not going to commit to publishing it until it's complete. So for me, there's no risk involved. Right? For me, there's the potential that later on I'm going to have a fantastic product that I can publish from a talented author or artist, and it's going to be something wonderful. It's going to make everybody some money. We're going to sell products, and if you don't complete it, then I haven't lost anything. Then I've spent some of my time on someone who's creative and enthusiastic, and that's kind of why I do what I do. You know, as a publisher, you don't make a lot of money. Well, okay, some people make a reasonable amount of money, but as an editor you definitely don't make money. So you're in it to work with creative people to help them produce something awesome. So yeah, you can expect a lot more openness and freedom and personal attention within the furry fandom when you produce something that's rare, like a novel manuscript or a comic. It's still not a done deal. I've received quite a few novel manuscripts where I was impressed that they managed to finish it, and where in some of the cases where it was proofread and where it was actually, you know, it was well presented, but then I just didn't like the story. And it sounds childish to say that, but like I run Bad Dog Books, and I only have a few rules that I tend not to break. The rules are, you know, a story has to be of high quality. It has to be well presented, it has to be interesting, and I have to like it. Because if I don't like it, then I'm not passionate about it. Then I'm not going to spend a lot of my time and energy on it, and I'm not going to be the best editor that I can be. So it's a shame, but it's not very much different from a traditional publishing house, where they won't care whether they like it or not. They'll only care whether the audience is going to spend money on it, which is also a good qualifier. Hey, this is the getting published, preparing for publication.
Sorry for being late.
Sorry?
Sorry for being late.
No problem, no problem. Just sit in the corner and wear a stupid hat. You want some candy? Pass the candy back there.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, another question, please.
Gibt es irgendwie Möglichkeiten, ein Verzeichnis, an welche Verlage man welche Arten von Story schicken kann? Oder muss man einfach blind versuchen?
Are there any lists and indexes of editor houses, editor for Fandom or outside, which produce and publish stories?
Yes.
Or do you have to try every editor house you find?
Let me see. The mainstream one is for mainstream publishing houses. There are what's called writers' markets, and they're magazines and their websites who basically they're lists of the publishing houses that are accepting submissions for this kind of magazine, and they're looking for that kind of. One of the websites. I haven't used it in so long, I actually can't remember what it is. So I'm going to give you my card later on, and then if you ask me again, I'll Google it for you. Or you can Google it yourself. But it's a writer's market, and it's a website that's maintained by volunteers, where they collect the information from different publishing houses, what submissions they're accepting, what the submission window is. Can you only submit for this magazine, this issue, this magazine, from then to then, or are they consistently looking for submissions? But it also has some more useful information, like writers who use these writer market websites, they'll also leave responses, like comments about their experience of working with this particular publishing house, or for example, how long it took to get a response for their submission. So then okay, this is a magazine, I can submit a story to it, and I probably shouldn't expect a response for the next 6 months, or sometimes a year, or a year and a half. That can happen. So then you just submit your story to they'll also include whether they accept what's the proper word in English? Non-exclusive submissions, right? Some houses will demand that if you send a story to them, you don't send it to anyone else, and that's because if somebody else picks up your story before they've gotten to it, then you've just wasted their time, and they don't want that.